Hi, this is Vino, and in this video interview we are expanding on the point that we've done an interview on before in relation to creating ideas of self, where one take knowledge and information of process and then internalize it into a alternate mind reality where one shape an idea of self in relation to process, instead of having actually walked practical realizations in actual physical proven self-change over and over and over again to in fact manifest self-change. So the process of self-change is just that. It is and will be a process that is walked in space and time. Why is that? I mean, in terms of our pre-programming is what we're consisting of and existing as, it is extensive, and we have developed ourselves as a pre-programming over an extensive period of time. I mean, our entire lives. So self-change is not just going to happen like that. Self-change is going to happen through a practical process that you're going to walk every single moment and change yourself within a particular context. Every single moment one face the same context over and over and over again. So let's take, for example, read material, and one has done writing and some self-forgiveness, and one come to realization of how one had treated one of one's siblings, and one had seen that the change that is required to be made with facing one's siblings is being more considerate of their process in terms of their studies, where you reacted to one of your siblings for being so disciplined all of the time, and that they wouldn't have time for anything else, or not even for you, and that you missed them, and thus you realized that you reacted to them also because you were so undisciplined. And now you realized, okay, I have to actually assist and support myself to become disciplined, and when I'm with my sibling, not accept and allow myself to react. So now if one, for example, take that realization and one go into ego and making it knowledge and information, one will create this idea of oneself that one has changed immediately. Like, okay, I've realized it now I am changed. And then one will walk in one's world, in one's reality, and one can create that idea into an extensive possession. If one, for example, would then interact with one's sibling, and one would see them really working hard, and it's like the world around them just disappears, and they're not doing the dishes, not cleaning their room properly, and things like that. And then one would react, but one would suppress that reaction and then go, nope, I'm not reacting, I'm changed. And then one will simply go about one's day. So what happens when one creates an idea of oneself in relation to a person, in relation to a realization, is that reactions would come up, but you'll suppress it because you'd think that you've changed. And then what would happen is those reactions will start accumulating, and then one day you and your siblings spend time together and you lash out on them. And because of time that overlaps and extends, one had already forgotten that why that blowout actually happened was because one suppressed one's reactions to the sibling, because one hadn't in fact changed but created an idea of change. And still again, one wouldn't make that connection of that blowout is because self hadn't really in fact changed towards one sibling, and then try and look for and try and understand a reason or cause or source for why one lashed out. And then one can even create another extension of that original idea of self and create another personality of making up reasons, justifications, and excuses for why one lashed out on one's sibling. So, I mean, creating ideas is a definite flag point that one must consider and take note of within one's process, because it can create more and more and more layers, which can take one through a very, very long time loop where one will again have to a certain extent, restart one's entire whole process, because you've got to again break down all those ideas of self-change in facing an event or a situation with someone where you've realized, okay, I haven't changed. And then it becomes another whole timely process. So that's why we're emphasizing this point of self-change. What is walking self-change, again, within that context with the sibling, for example, is where you have done your writing, you've done your self-forgiveness, you've realized, okay, I've been irritated or frustrated with my sibling and comparing myself to them because they're more disciplined than me. What is self-change? Self-change is me actually asserting and assisting and supporting myself to become disciplined. To every time I come face to face with my sibling and I react, to face that reaction, to breathe through it, release it, look at what thoughts come up, look at what backchat come up. Is there any point still towards my sibling that I have missed, that I've not taken into consideration because those reactions are still coming up? Then you're not suppressing your reactions. You are walking a process of self-change. The more reactions come up or backchat come up, you reassess yourself, you reassess your writing, you reassess your self-forgiveness, as well as at the same time walking that point of discipline, where you're equalizing yourself to and with your sibling to remove that point of internal conflict that you initially had. And then you're, through that multidimensional process, you are walking yourself towards self-change. There's no ideas attached to it because you're facing and dealing with reality. So remember, if you're not in fact walking that practical application self-change, and you're simply creating an idea of yourself with only doing writing and self-forgiveness, there is and will obviously be consequences, because one's reality will not support one's idea of oneself. So another point within this, which is what we want to emphasize and focus on in this video interview, is the difference between one's representative self and one's real self within one's mind consciousness system. Meaning the representative self will, for example, create an idea of self, whereas the real self is what is really going on within one's actual process as one's mind consciousness system, which can create that point where one tends to take realizations into one's representative self and create an idea of self, instead of making realizations an actual walking process of changing the real self. So let's use an example of where three people are around the table and busy communicating. And the context is about change. And change within the context of family. And this person, let's call it person A, person B, and person C. Person C was communicating about family and the general process that one will walk in, for example, facing self with family, where they explained and were discussing in how initially with facing your family, you face yourself first, within yourself, in standing equal to and one with each family member within oneself, having a look at what each family member is showing about and of self within self that has not yet been worked with or dealt with or faced. I mean, it's the same principle that one will walk with all human beings. What is it that each one represent of me that I've separated myself from? Family will be a more extensive process because that's where you developed your personalities from. Your primary base platform of your mind consciousness system was created, programmed, and developed through and within family. So that process of facing yourself will be more confronted with resistance and internal conflict and things like that, because obviously your mind consciousness system is set to survival. So it will do all it can to make sure it survives and you don't change, and therefore facing family within self is quite a process. So person C was just communicating about this point, and then person A said, oh, I have faced my family and I have changed, and I experience myself like this and like that, and I can now be like this and like that to them. And with facing my family, I have changed. And then person B made a comment and said, no, you have not changed. You have not in fact changed. You have maybe an idea of how you experience yourself in while you are looking at who you are with your family. But in terms of your actual self-change with your family, you have not yet changed. Person A then reacted in anger and said, yes, I have changed. What the fuck are you talking about? And now, what is that reaction that person A had towards person B? Is confirming that point that they had not in fact changed. So the change was thus only an idea person A created within themselves, within their mind, because obviously if they did in fact change and person B said that no, you didn't change, person A would have simply breathed and stood and I'm here, but yes, I did. Have a look at how I walked this and this and this, and I have realized this and this and this. I have applied myself like this and this. I faced this and this and this and this. It would have been a layout of who they are here. However, the reaction was the opposite. The reaction was anger, was a position that came over as a defense and protection. And that is an indication, if one go into any form of defense and protection in reacting to a statement that someone is speaking or saying about who you are, whatever is being said is obviously hitting the button, and one is accessing an idea of self. So what would have actual real self change been? So what did person A realize in that moment? Oh my God, okay, I reacted to, no, I haven't changed. So obviously I haven't changed. What did person A realize was that the change that they experienced was only in certain contexts. I have changed within that, and I have changed within being able to look at and assess and communicate in that way. But who they are as a totality of themselves in relation to family did not change. Parts might have transformed, but there was not yet a change within the context of actual self-realization that can stand the test of time, meaning where who they are is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So remember, one will go through a process initially where parts of yourself will start transforming. Transforming meaning where you will start approaching things differently with some people, with friends, with family, and things like that. That is not yet actual, real, total self-change. That is self in the process of change. That is simply parts of you that is starting to come together in how one is piecing oneself together. Your change within, for example, the context of family will be where you are, in fact, equal to and one with yourself here. Where you have, in fact, and could either within yourself or directly faced your family. Where you have in fact walked a process practically physically where you have proven to yourself in communication with them, in being with them, in simply looking at them within yourself, in memories coming up, things like that, where whatever comes up within yourself, you have been able to stand. No wavering, no falling, that point of untouchability, meaning where you are unchangeable in terms of when confronting them or being with them. So this is just an example of the real self and the representative self. So what did person A do? Person A took ideas that she accumulated within herself in time spent with the family, where there were moments of insight or realization or actions, but though only those moments were then accumulated into an idea of self that, okay, I have now changed towards my family. But what was completely taken out was all the mini reactions, all the moments of fear, all the moments of suppression, all the moments of hiding that actually dominated the whole experience with the family, that were suppressed and not looked at. And that's how we shape the representative self. We only take in the good and we suppress the bad, which is the real self. But I mean, not in terms of good and bad, it was just a reference of how we shift the polarities within ourselves. And then when she came to the confrontation point of herself between the real self and the representative self, person B took on the real self in terms of stating you as the real self in terms of what you're still walking as your process as the mind consciousness system had not yet changed. Because obviously that was confirmed with a person going, fuck that, yes, I have fucking changed. What the fuck are you talking about? That was thus the representative self, the idea of self that was defending itself. Because the representative idea self was in this belief system of I am changed. And obviously it will defend and protect itself. When you've really changed, do you need to defend and protect anything? No, I am it. I'm here. I'm actual, in fact, change. So have a look at those points for those especially walking process in the difference between the representative self, the idea of self, and the real self. And remember that tendency that we usually have where we accumulate all the good stuff that we do, and then from that try and shape an idea of change, an idea of realization, an idea of being or becoming something more, when what you're actually doing is you're suppressing your actual real self process that you've got to walk. So what person A then thus realized was that, okay, I've got to reassess my family time that I was spending there. What was I suppressing? What was I denying? What didn't I look at? What did I hide from? Where was I dishonest within myself? Where did I compromise? All of that was then thus missed in actually walking the real process that has to be walked, while an idea of change was superimposed on it all to try and hide from the actual real process that has to be walked. Okay, so obviously we all want to be this perfect, happy person that doesn't have all this shit. There is no shortcut in this process. Walking this process of the real self and what we have to really walk as the mind consciousness system as ourselves, you're going to find shit and more shit and more shit. It's going to be a Pandora's box of shit opening up. You've got your tools, writing, self-forgiveness, self-corrective application, forums, Desteniiprocess, blogging, vlogging, the whole community that is available here to assist and support you in walking through, one can say, the end of the world that's kind of already happening within ourselves. Each thought being like a time clock tick going off moment by moment to the countdown of our lives, which is our death. I mean, stop living as a countdown clock and start living as a creation process in manifesting a world that one can actually live in and not die in, which is what we're busy accepting and allowing. And be watchful of this tendency of accumulating good things in what we do within process, instead of taking through what you realize in your writings and your self-forgiveness and your bloggings and your vloggings. Have a look at how you can practically, in physical space-time, change you within what you've realized to not create ideas or representative selves, but face the real self that's here. Okay, thank you very much.